Oh yes, one of the things we like saying about in the classes we teach is that if your camera on or your camera off, if you have your camera on, that means we have more of an opportunity to learn more than we want to know about the person, especially if we see a kid in the background or if a pet just walks in front of the screen. And when I was teaching classes in the kitchen, my cat would think, oh, great, that means he's here to feed me.
That's right.
So yeah, they would be meowing throughout, and I'd be having to tend with the meowing while also at the same time teaching the class.
Well, what's funny, when it first started, everybody was trying to cover that up, like that isn't happening, and hide the cat and hide the kids. And then it seemed like after a year or so, people were much more relaxed. The cat would go across the screen, and
Yeah,
we just didn't worry about it so much. We were less worried about how it looked. I think everybody was relaxed a little bit more into that.
yeah, it adds more to it. In fact, it adds to the conversation.
Yeah,
Um,
it's very much more personalized, right?
I was actually part of a conversation about 4 or 5 years ago about what would happen if there was a disaster, if there was something that forced people to work from home. Would you
Hmm.
be able to? Would you be able to do that tomorrow?
Wow.
And so,
Prescient.
the biggest, yeah, the biggest thing that came up from that was yes, but how would I have access to all my files, all my papers? And
Oh,
so that's
interesting.
why nice being able to save everything in the cloud these days, make it much easier.
Yeah.
And yeah, so when working from home, or I should say working remotely, we had to learn more about those type of tools and less about preparing handouts for classes to print and give to people, but more about providing a PDF or providing
Hmm.
a file during the session or after the session.
Hmm. Yes. Yes. The burden of printing got distributed, didn't it? I mean, if you have a class of 30 people, you're sending it out, and 30 people are printing it if they need it, not 30 copies. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah. So, is there anything more you want to say about the pandemic, or how your world is changing? I have some more questions about just your own path with L&D, but is there something more that you'd like to talk about in terms of the changes that have you've seen in the last 2 years?
Let's see, when it comes to the pandemic and the changes in the past few years, people are a lot more, as you mentioned, relaxed online now,
Mm-hmm.
and they're a lot more forgiving too.
That's
Um,
true,
for,
isn't it?
mhm.
Yeah.
Is forgiving about it's the background noises, or even forgiving about let's see here. It, it's more relaxed. I think is the biggest thing to take away from this. Before we used to be very rigid when it comes to meetings, being here and having everything ready for us. But now it's like, oh, somebody comes into a meeting or somebody comes into a class and don't have the material. We can't blame somebody for maybe missing an email. So this is where we have to make sure we have these resources available where we can
Right.
share them quickly through the chat. So it's just more like being able to do things on the fly as well.
And that's true. And the other thing I've noticed in teaching, the first class I taught online, I was so worried about making a mistake. And then later on, if I made a mistake, everybody in the class could tell me how to fix it because everyone was so much more knowledgeable about, what had to happen, right?
Yeah.
It was,
Uh,
a lot of Zoom
another thing I've
experts.
learned, yeah, another thing I've learned is that the answer is always in the room.